Very much for joining us at this point to discuss this. Looking at the budget proposal, how does this align with Nigeria's long-term development goals, such as the economic recovery and growth plan?
Thank you very much, and thanks for having me. So the budget proposal, the 2025 budget proposal, it's in that direction of meeting up with our long-term goals and plans and aspiration, which is a very good way going forward. And I'm very much particular about the theme, budget of restoration, okay, securing peace and rebuilding prosperity. It goes to show that the president and his team and the federal government actually understand what is going on in the country. And it's time for us to regig and retool everything we need to put in place to move forward. So I think for the long-term prospect, I think this is the right direction.
Now, if you're saying it's the right direction, what will now be the potential macroeconomic implications of this budget?
Okay, if you're talking about the macroeconomic implications, first of all, we know that macroeconomically there has been improvements. The numbers as regards the GDP, trade surplus, and every other thing has been on the good side. Even the international organizations have confirmed this, and if you go through the 2024 economic report, which I believe the section of the media also has, it also indicates that we have done well, the nation has done well regards that. Now, the trickle-down effect is where the government needs to really put much attention. Now, that is why you see that alongside not just having money or resources to put into different activities or sectors, other policies are going hand in hand. So you see the policies that has come on board recently, let's say the removal of first subsidy, indication of this, even the recent tax reforms, and even when we go into the bigger politics, when we talk about the local government autonomy, all these things are being done side by side with the resources, because sometimes if you have resources and you don't have the right policies to actually guide and prune these resources, then you are just probably wasting your time. So if you watch, there's a simultaneous work going on. The resources are being done and the policy. So as time goes on and with the prospect of 2025 at hand, I believe that this will also reflect macroeconomically.
All right, so how realistic is this budget proposal, especially with the strengthening of the naira? The president mentioned this during his budget presentation, and looking at a point where the naira was strengthened against the dollar at 1,500 in 2025, according to the budget proposal. But how realistic is this?
Well, it's quite realistic because if you observe, sometime this year we saw, let's say around early, within the first quarter, we saw what was going on with the naira, how it was going haywire. But I think the policies of the CBN and other things that were done was able to contain it. So if we could contain it when everything was going bad that time, then what if we are getting it right and we have been able to correct certain things? Then you can be optimistic that yes, the naira will actually strengthen. And even if you look at the recent numbers that we have regarding the oil production, the numbers have gone up. So in that aspect, you can see that everything is coming in place gradually. 2024 was, I say, though we are still in 2024, but it's something we should already put behind us and look forward to 2025 because the prospects in 2025 are high. 2024 was a challenging year. It was a year of dismantling. It was a year of restructuring. It was a year of retooling and everything. So you can see that even from the title of the budget, this new budget says restoration, there's need to restore. So talking about the naira, and in fact, we even have a better trade surplus at the moment. So if you talk about the naira in particular, I believe that there is hope. Even the numbers, in inflation numbers also, currently on 30-something, but why not? 15% is something that is achievable in 2025. So we can only be positive and work towards that. And the audacious budget and everything that we see there, we'll be having security issues with this and that, agricultural, food and all that. And you see there's this, if you look at advanced nations, they focus very much on their security. And Nigeria now, we're having something like, not even an external problem necessarily, we're having an internal problem. So if we can solve this, make up an enabling environment for investors, boost their confidence and all that, and if there's foreign inflow, foreign direct investment and all that, then why not? The naira will stabilize even further and we even go better than the projection of 1,500. So there's hope.
All right, but some people are not optimistic that the rates will drop from 34% to 15%.
Well, you know, one thing, nations that have made progress in this world are nations that are dare to dream. Okay, so we need to set targets for ourselves. You know, you see, one thing about projections and statistics is that you may not be there, but you have the mind that you can get there. So what do you do to that? You project, then you go back and do your homework. Now, it's left for the MDAs, every sector of the government, even state governors, local government chairmen and all that, to work together and see how they can key into this Renew Hope agenda and make sure that they push forward and, you know, everything comes to pass. It's not difficult. It's something that can happen. If you look at the month-to-month inflation, it's going down. Okay, the numbers may still be high, but the month-to-month inflation is going down gradually, one way or the other, even for food and all that. So with the prospect, we really need to have this incurable optimism about our own nation. So if the government believes and the people believe also, should try to also believe, because it's something that we can achieve. I know society may be finding it hard now. It's hitting, purchasing power has gone down, but we are getting somewhere. And I believe that in the very near future, especially 2025, there's very big hope. And we can actually hit that. So we should work towards it. You and I and the government can be involved in this. So that's it.
All right. So for now, Nigeria is dependent on oil revenue. And there's a target of $75 per barrel for proposed oil price target per barrel and production target of 2.06 million. How do you think this will impact the budget's revenue projection? And what are the potential risks of this if these targets are not met?
Well, what is life without risk? And what's life without being optimistic? Okay, now let's look at it. Earlier this year, the numbers were low. At some point, we were even doing below 1 million. It ramped up. I think we were able to see about 1.6. Why not? If with the improving security, because if you look at the scenario and everywhere now, you see that security is actually improving in the country, though there are still one or two issues around some places which the government is tackling heads on. So if security improves, if every other many other things are put in place, of course you see the refineries on stream and everything and all that. So I think the prospects are very high. They are very high. I know people may be pessimistic, say we don't believe that this can happen or that can happen. Everybody has their own opinion. But when you are privy to look at these numbers and to see the progress that has been made, though does not. And one thing I must also say is that if you look at the president, most time when he speaks, you can see the human in him, and even the government, people from the government space generally. You see, they've not shied away from the fact that there are challenges. You've not heard anybody saying, "I'm not aware." They are aware. And they know this, and they are working towards it and trying to fix it up as soon as possible. So that positive projection is, the production numbers is very possible, because within this year we've been able to go from 1.1 to 6 up to 1.6. Then even the price of crude, benchmarking it at 75, is still a very fair one to bearing any unforeseen shock. So it's whether we say it's risky or not risky, we must dare to, you know, pursue these things and challenge ourselves to be the best.
So how do we now address infrastructural deficits to achieve optimal performance of this budget?
Talking about infrastructural deficit across the country, I think we have seen several projects coming up. I think this Lagos Calabar Coastal, railway is something that we can really be positive about. And across the nation, when you look at also the Renewed Hope initiatives, it's across all states of the Federation, there are projects going on. And a lot is going on, even in the agricultural space. You know, there has been a lot of efforts to put into mechanization and every other thing. So, you know, in fact, the prospects are very high. That's just what I can say. Prospects are very high, and I think Nigerians should be very optimistic, and there's hope for all of us going forward.
How can Nigerians be optimistic?
Infrastructurally.
Well, yes, you're saying Nigeria should be optimistic, but there are daunting realities facing everyone at this time. How do you think Nigerians will be optimistic when these realities are still there, yet we have a budget coming up that we're going to spend some money on in 2025?
Well, that is the only thing that we can do. We must always, at every situation, we must preach hope. Even in our personal lives, we face challenges. And why is it that when you and I, we have both faced challenges, everybody has faced challenges, why didn't we just give up? You see, we believe that we can move forward. That is how it is as a nation. Yes, and like I said earlier on, the president and the government is well aware of the plight of the people. Myself, yourself, everybody, we are all facing the heat. But if you look into history, if you're a student of history, go into great nations that actually made it out. Even China, we look at today, Singapore, even the great America. There were times where the people had to take such a hit, to be able to see a better future. So my message to Nigerians personally is just, let's be optimistic. Whatever you do that, puts that food on your table, keep on doing it. Let's believe in the government, and at least there's been more transparency from this government. If you ask me, I think they've been one of the most transparent governments in recent decades, being open on things, not shying away from things, and trying their best to try to open up and say, this is what is on ground, and let's buy into it. So it is not a force to say, come in or don't come in, or be optimistic or don't be. It's just, let's believe or trust the process. If I'm to borrow from how club football is, there are times when teams are not doing well, okay? But you see people still stick to them. This is our country. So you can maybe dislike what the government is doing, but keep that love for your country. And I believe that the government is also doing their best to make sure that things become better. So Nigerians should just be positive. And the budget at hand, when I looked at it carefully, it really, really hits home. Because if we can secure peace, if there's peace in this country, and that's what will lead you to, building prosperity. And when you build prosperity, everybody will want to come. You'll be the new bride in town, and investments coming from left, right, center, and you go. So the heat is there actually, but Nigerians should be optimistic. They should be very optimistic. I personally, even in all of this, I'm very optimistic that things will become better. In 1 or 2 years, it's not, the rot that has happened in the system has been decades long. So we cannot just attribute this 18 months. I think this government is about 18 months, if I'm not mistaken. So there's things they have to dismantle, restructure, retool, and, put in place. So it takes time. And so we want people to really be patient and trust in the process and believe in the process. Honestly, the government is doing its big part to make things better for Nigerians. And the views of Nigerians are very much appreciated. But at least, let's still love our country and, stick with it. So I think there's hope. There's hope. This current budget brings hope. We can't go lower. We can't take the bar lower. We are higher than we were from the previous year. And I even believe that we even need a bigger budget, if you ask me. We need a bigger budget. So going forward, I believe the next one should be better. Yesterday should not be better than today in terms of how we want to progress and move forward as a people. So we should be optimistic.
Well, for a while, it sounded like a motivational speaker trying to tell Nigerians to be optimistic despite the whole situation. But let's get back to talking about the budget. And, of course, this time around, I'd like to point out the issues of private sector. How important is it for private sector to participate, and how is this budget aiding that?
The budget is clearly aiding that. If you look at listen to the president's speech yesterday, there were many highlights about PPPs, public-private partnership. And believe me, when you talk about deficit, because most times the deficit in a budget is what I was expecting you and waiting for you to talk about that. So the deficit in a budget is what usually raises alarm most times, okay? When people will say, how do we fund this? Now, with the macroeconomic improvements, honestly, there has been great inflow of, FDIs and even partnerships and even foreign direct investment, like I said earlier on. So if you look at the system, investor confidence has improved. It has. Look at the Dangote refinery, for example. That was a private entity, but one way or the other, the government was involved using the political will to make sure that it works and it's here today functioning. We have the BOA refineries also coming up. The Port Harcourt refinery is already on stream. Kaduna and others, I think they are already in the pipeline. So, you see, in all of this, the private sector has a whole lot to play. And trust me good, this deficit that we have will be largely funded even locally, because the external borrowing may not be, we may not have that clear window for external borrowing and other, but a whole lot of the deficit is going to come from local funding. And the private sector is well aware, and they are on ground to actually support this move by the government. So that should not be a problem. And the budget also highlights that. And if you understand or go through what is happening in the private space, you can understand that there is this zeal to partner with government, because the ease of doing business and also the prospect of partnerships are also very good at this very point in time. So it's open for everything. Nigeria is open for investments from across the world, locally, internationally. So why do you think this restructuring has been done out this way? It's so that everywhere will be open and people can say, okay, that is it, yes. The only part that we must be sincere about is the microeconomic part. And that is why you see several policies have to back up these reforms, have to back up this restructuring program to be able to make sure that there's a proper trickle-down effect from top to bottom, okay, so that it goes around everybody. So that is it.
All right, it's been good talking to you, Dervish Okoje, who is a public affairs analyst and a management consultant, talking to us on the appropriation of the bill, the 2025 appropriation bill. Thank you so much for talking to us and giving us your insights on this matter.